All right. I think we got everything live. We got audio. We got video. I think we're good to fly here. Oh, bam. All right. Here we are, folks. We did it. We made it to another Friday. Go ahead and silence the music for a little bit. For a little top of the show, me jabbering at you. Hi. How's it going, folks? Welcome to the show. This is Staghammer Studio. I'm Wes. We're going to be doing a 2-hour hobby stream here. I'm going to be doing a little bit of painting. I welcome you all to hang out with me and hobby along on whatever it is you happen to fancy working on at this particular moment in time. I've got a couple of things lined up that I plan to at least touch on briefly. I wanted a little bit of a palette cleanser, so I wanted to take a break from painting skeleton stuff, and I primed up a bunch of little Skaven Plague Monk Ratmen. So I will probably at least work on one of them. I painted up technically 11 of them, 10 of the rank and file troops and one little hero. There, I have no illusion that I'm going to get to all of it today, but I'd like to at least pick one dude and have him be sort of a test model. So we'll test out some paint schemes on him and see what we think works. I have some ideas in mind of what I want to do with these guys, but we'll see. But yeah, aside from that, we've got those skeleton warriors from last week's stream. So my game plan is to get those guys with a little bit more done on them. Finished would be ideal, but again, it might not get there. We'll see. We'll see where the day takes us, guys. We'll see where the day takes us. Yeah. So we made it. It's Friday. Tomorrow is July 4th. So for those of you that care, happy 4th. I tend not to be one of those people. All right. Well, folks, it's like the weekly computer crash has come and gone. This is getting a little old. Definitely needs to get fixed sooner than later. But we're here. We're back. I've got audio. Got video. It says I'm live. So I'm just going to go with it. So here goes nothing. All right. So anyway, welcome back. We are here to do a little bit of hobby today. As I already explained before everything crashed, I'm going to be working on a Skaven Plague Monk test model for that portion of my Skaven army, kind of trying to figure out where I want to go with that paint scheme. I do have some ideas in mind, but we'll kind of play by ear. And then I have the Skeleton Warriors that I started on last week's stream that I'm going to be throwing some more effort into at some point as well. and hopefully we'll get those guys looking pretty good. I'd be happy if I can get them even like close to done, as long as they're like, sort of within the realm of looking good. And by close to done, I mean like everything but the bases. Like the bases, I can slap that crap together whenever. But anyway, so the only other top of the show topic that I really wanted to dive into briefly was I think I'm going to be changing things up a little bit in terms of like where I'm streaming to initially. So when I first started this stream, I was streaming to YouTube, and my plan was to try and grow my YouTube channel and work on that. And ultimately, that is still sort of the goal here. And because I had more people viewing on Facebook than I did on YouTube, it sort of seemed like a good idea to try streaming to Facebook and then uploading the videos to YouTube when they were done. And it's worked out okay. But I've noticed over time, the channel has sort of fewer and fewer views on and interactions on the actual videos themselves, which, as far as like YouTube analytics and algorithms and stuff go, doesn't look good. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is, and of course my computer is not cooperative ever, so as is evident by the fact it's already crashed once tonight during the stream. So what I was considering doing was sooner than later switching over to streaming back on YouTube, and looking for a way to do a simulcast stream so I can hit both platforms simultaneously. But my focus really is, and I feel should be, on my YouTube channel. So I think that's where I'm going to be focusing the stream. But at the same time, I don't want to, until I get my computer sort of situated, I don't want to really put any like solid effort into trying to make a big YouTube push. So if it's going to keep crashing while I'm streaming and stuff like that, like that's not the type of content that I want to be putting out on a regular basis. Unfortunately, it's already the type of content that, that's just what I have. I'm working with what I've got right now. So it is what it is, but I'm striving for better is the short thing. And so I want to make sure that I'm keeping that goal sort of in mind and get my computer in a situation where it can, handle operating without just shitting the bed all the time. So anyway, once that's done, I'll probably make that switch to YouTube as a sort of as a main platform, a main base, I guess. But I'll make sure that before I go live, there's notifications put out on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, and I'll also make sure that well, on your end, you can make sure that you're aware as well by going to the channel and hitting subscribe and the notification bell icon, so that when I do go live, you guys will get the heads up. But yeah, I think really that's where my aim is, and that's where my sort of goal with all of this was. So I need to kind of try and keep that in the sights and keep gunning for it. So anyway, so I think with that out of the way, I don't have a whole lot more for the top of the show here. So I suppose we can just get on down to the table and see what we're dealing with today. So let's see. Oh, and of course the camera is all manner of askew. Let's see here. That. You'll notice this week that my keyboard, the front of my keyboard, is way more in the shot than usual. And that is largely because I got another paint rack for my desk because my 3 was not enough. Apparently, I needed another one. And realistically, I need more than that because I have paint other places than just in front of me. But a good bulk of what I use on the regular is here. And even then, I can probably sort through this. There's colors here that I haven't touched in who knows how long. So I could probably pull those out and kind of rotate in some new paints that I want to try out. But anyway, I digress. That is not at all why we're here. But yeah, so if it bothers you at all that this is in the way, I mean, I guess I'm sorry, but I'm not really that sorry. But unfortunately, I really kind of run out of desk here, so it is what it is. We're working with what we've got at the moment. So yeah. So this was the Skaven hero I was talking about, the plague priest. And he comes on the Plague Furnace and Screaming Bell kit. I gave him a white and dark gray sort of zenithal prime, and then went over the robes with a sort of an olive color. My hope was to do a thin application and have the zenithal highlight sort of still add shading and stuff, which it does technically, but I just don't. I'm not a big super fan of the color. It's too light, too olivey. I wanted something a little bit more dark and kind of drab. So, I think basically he's going to end up getting a rework at some point in the near future. But because he's a hero, I don't want him to be my test model, so we're going to kind of set him off to the side and forget about him. And I'll come back to him when I feel fairly comfortable with whatever it is I'm going to do with him. So yeah, so he's just going to kind of be put off, and we'll worry about him at a later date. In the meantime, I have these 10 plague monks, so we're going to just kind of pick this guy. That looks good. We're going to slide these guys out of the way as well, and we'll come back to them once I get this ironed out. So I was poking around on the oldie internet, doing a little bit of Google foo, and trying to figure out exactly, what I wanted to do with these guys for paint scheme. And one of the usual paint schemes is sort of like an olive drab robe with like kind of rusty weapons and whatnot, and I think that's in part one of the directions that I'm going to go. Another variation that I see a lot is like a mustard yellow robe, and I don't know that I'm super keen on that. The other thing that I have been considering is doing the robes in like a I don't know what the best whatever this color is, almost like a like a darker than a beige, like a to call it, but like it's like a tan taupe, I don't know. And basically try and go for like a like a really stained white cloth, like something that's just really dirty and dingy and gnarly, and do that for the lower half. And then you can see like there's the hood, and then like this sort of like little half cape mantle around his shoulders here. Cowl, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but anyway, that I was going to do in the green. So it was going to be like kind of the dingy, like, stained white robes on the bottom half, and then on the if they have a hood, the hood and then the little shoulder piece would be green, like dark green on top. So those are basically the two schemes, and I like the idea of doing the kind of the white. But if I did it all green, the all green would make for like a very quick paint, because I could just base it all in one color and then like either dry brush it or even like airbrush it. You know what I mean? Like airbrush the whole thing like dark green, and then shoot a lighter green from above. And do like a zenithal style highlight scheme, but just done in greens. The greens specifically that I'm thinking about using are these right here. So the especially bright one, this one here, would be reserved for like super fine, like high highlights. So these would be the main three colors right here. And honestly, this color would probably only appear like on the heroes and stuff like that, just to give them that little bit of extra pop and detail. So we'll take that out of the equation for now. So this would basically be the starting base coat color, and then, sort of a mid-tone, and then a highlight color here. At least that's the idea that I've been running with. And that would be the green portion. And like I said, that would make for a super easy paint to just like base everything in this, do like a heavy dry brush in this, and then a light dry brush in this, and just call it done. You know what I mean? And then the robe, which is like 89% of the model, that part's just done. So yeah. And then the other colors for the robe, I would be doing, I think, the sort of like the classic bone trinity from Citadel. So Xandri Dust, or Shabti Bone, with a highlight of Screaming Skull. And then I think I would probably be using Agrax Earthshade after this, in the recesses and stuff like that, and then kind of neaten up with these two colors. So it's more brown than bone. I don't know. That's about as far as I've gotten with it, quite frankly. So we're going to kind of, I'm going to just randomly pick another one of these dudes. So I'm going to paint up two. I'm going to paint one in each scheme, and then we'll see what we like better at the end. How's that sound? I think that sounds awesome. So that being said, let's haul in the wet palette. Mouse out of the way, but first bring the tunes back, because I like me a little something in my ear while I'm working. Evil lid. Oh, that's a very busy wet palette. I probably should have cleaned that out before the show, but I was a little busy. I made a cup of coffee like right before the show, and it is, when last I tried, it was a little too hot to sip. We'll see. No, I take that back. It is at the perfect sipping temperature. So we will take advantage of that, no doubt. All right. So my palette is still heavily covered in stuff from my last couple of projects. So there's real estate is getting a little slim, but we're gonna go for it anyway. Need to be. We don't need a ton of space to work here. All right, so we're gonna grab this dark base coat color, put some of that on the palette, close that up, that out of here, So we're going to start with hopefully the quick, easy one, which is going to be just the green scheme on the robes. Eeny, meeny, miny, this one. All right. Where's my painting player? These, stick him on here. And we paint him. So I have had, I got my first box of these guys a while back now. I've had my eye on them. My first army ever actually was the Nurgle army. And this was back in early Warhammer Age of Sigmar, before the actual battle tome came out for Nurgle, the Maggotkin book. So I had picked them up. I really liked the promise of a super tanky army, because traditionally in most games I play, I prefer like a very tanky sort of attrition-based play style. Hence my enjoyment of Legionus of Nagash as well. I was told that they would both be right up my alley, and boy howdy were they. Yeah. So we're not even 2 minutes into this, and the first base coat is just about done. Or at least the first coat of the first base coat is just about done. Definitely a quick option, that's for sure. And since this is a Horde army, and I will be painting a lot of these guys, I have 40 already built and ready to go. They still need to be primed. I only primed 10 today, so... but what I'm getting at here is there's a lot of them. And I think my list that I built, even like my small, like 1,000-point list for these guys, I think had like 80 plague monks or something like that. So I'm going to be painting a few of these guys for sure. So if it's a fast scheme, I kind of like the sound of that. Okay. So we're going to let this coat dry, and we're going to move on to this next guy. We're going to go ahead and keep the same color going right now, but we're just going to focus on his hood and cowl. Gonna just get his back area here. He is wearing a hood, so we'll just get the hood as well. Now, I'm not overly concerned about getting any of this or any of these base coats on like his fur or skin or anything like that. I'm basically just trying to get as much coverage on the vast majority of the model as possible, which in this case is his robes, because that is most of what's on this model. It's just robes, which does make it nice to paint. It's not super detailed and not super tricky, which is exactly what you want when you are painting a metric shit ton of one particular type of model. So anyway, jumping back to what I was trying to say earlier, my first army that I played was Nurgle, and so these guys in particular are keyworded as Nurgle, so I could use them in that army, particularly after the Maggotkin book came out. That was a thing one might want to do. And I got a start collecting box. It was something I always had my eye on. And I was doing a commission for a friend's, I think it's his brother-in-law, question mark? Pretty sure brother-in-law. But I was doing a commission for him. And as payment, I was given the Clan Pestilence start collecting box. So that was perfectly fine by me. Like, we worked that out. That wasn't like a surprise to me. So, and I was perfectly fine with it because I'd wanted one and for a while, and it was a nice little surprise to just kind of have one waiting in the wing. So once I finished his commission, I tore into that and got it all built, and then it just sort of sat on a shelf for a while because I started working on my Legions of Nagash stuff and jumped around between a few other commissions and a bunch of other projects. And somewhere in all of that, 2020 rolled around, and when at the very beginning of the year, I kind of jumped on the New Year, New Army bandwagon, and I had been gifted the Skaven Battle Tome by another friend of mine. He bought it. I don't even think he was necessarily planning on playing the army, although I quite frankly don't remember if he was or not. But I think he bought it just because it seemed interesting to read and like wanted to get in on the lore and stuff, which, you know, that's fine. It's a perfectly viable reason to buy the book. And so he bought it and he read it and said, nope, this is not for me. And asked if I would be interested in just taking the book. And I was like, sure, okay. So anyway, I started 2020 with the Battle Tome in hand and one start collecting box already in hand, and said to myself, well, this might as well be my new army of the new year. And it will stand to bolster the ranks of my pre-existing Nurgle army, which I had been working on for quite some time. And so yeah, it all around seemed like just a good idea. So that's what I did. So I bought another start collecting box, and I have that. And then as payment for another commission from a different friend, he had the Skaven half of the Carrion Empire box. He had the Flesh Eater Quartz half. And so he was like, well, I will trade you the Skaven stuff for the commission work. And I said, absolutely. I am still, however, working on that commission. So I have not started building any of the stuff that he gave me. I have it sitting on a shelf back here, but I promised myself that I wouldn't touch it until his commission was done, because I felt like that would be a little shady. So anyway, so keep in mind this is just the sort of the rough base coats and stuff here, and there's no highlighting, and they're not even like good base coats yet. They're still pretty transparent in certain areas and need another layer on there. But I mean, I can already tell you that I kind of like this two-tone look a little bit better, and it might take a little bit longer, but I just don't like. I don't think it's going to take that much longer that it's necessarily going to be a problem. I don't know. I might shoot myself for it later, but although, I don't know, team. Doing all the rank and file guys in the solid green like this, and then saving this color scheme for like the heroes, So, like, if we bring this guy back in real quick, like, what if we did this guy with this guy in this scheme? So because he has the same kind of like robe thing, cowl on top with the big old hood and all that stuff. And if we did that in green with the under robe as you know, the this sort of beigey color, I think we might be onto something. But then on these guys, no, it's tricky. I feel like the solid green is just like too boring. You know what I mean? Like it's just too monotone. And I'd rather... Oh, team. I don't know. I kind of think I'm going to go two-tone. It's going to be a little bit more work in the long run, and I might hate myself for it, but I just like that look better. And I mean, that's not even like... Obviously, it's not even like done, but I feel like if I already like it better at this stage, that's probably just the way to go. So we're just going to crank in another quick layer on this. Yeah, I like where this is going. Like the cut of its jib, as it were. Alright. Yeah, I think we got a winner here, guys. Alright. So I'm going to take this all green fella and I'm going to set him aside. We're going to not worry about that. I'm going to try and finish this one rat to, you know, a reasonable level of done, just to kind of push this to a place that I like. You know what, before I do any more green, let's focus on finishing up the beige here. We're just gonna let that dry. All right. You know, I probably had an opportunity to do this during the week, but I didn't because I had a really crazy week at work, and it did not afford me a ton of energy end of the day, so I did not finish out blacking out this unit. But while this guy dries up, we're gonna just kind of hit this guy with some black paint. I just black out the shield, black out the weapon, any other thing that is not bone, basically. So in case you missed it last week, my general approach to painting these guys is I prime them white. And this is for all of my sort of skeletal troops in general. I prime them white, and I do all the bone at once. So I do like batch paint style, start on one side, just go all the way down. And my particular preference is I do a wash of what is it? Seraphim Sepia over the white prime. Then I do a dry brush of Screaming Skull. And then I do another dry brush, a lighter dry brush of Pallid Witch Flesh. Just like in a top-down motion so that it acts like a highlight. And then once that's done, then the bone is finished. And in the case of like these skeleton dudes, that's, you know, it per guy, if I was to sit there and just do one dude, I mean, it doesn't take long at all. I don't have exact times. I've never actually sat and timed it. But I can tell you that it does not take that long. Like you're looking at like 10 or 15 minutes, and that includes drying time. So, yeah. So that's for the, like all the bone. And then once the bone is done, then I come through and do what I'm doing right now, which is I black out everything that is not the bone, and it basically resets it and pops out, you know, like just so I can see it visually while I'm painting. It pops out all of the non-bone stuff and gives you some really nice sort of base contrast. And it's the kind of thing that, like, if that was as far as you got, you know, before your next game or whatever, you could still probably throw these guys on the table and they wouldn't be finished and they wouldn't look great, but at least you could tell by looking at them like, oh, that's a skeleton. Yep. So, that's why I like to do this kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Not that one. This one. I don't know how it's been in your neighborhoods as of late, guys. But I tell you, in my neighborhood, they have just been setting off fireworks like it is collectively the neighborhood job. And I'm not just talking recently either. I'm talking like for weeks now they've been doing this. Now, I don't so much mind. It doesn't like, occasionally it'll sort of get to me. Like if there's like a real loud local one, I'm like either trying to fall asleep or, because you know, keep in mind I wake up for work super early, so I'm usually trying to fall asleep by like 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that. But man, I tell you, my dogs don't really much appreciate it. That's for damn sure, especially at night. They're not fans of the fireworks. Oh, siree. My wife was out yelling off the back deck the other night too, trying to get him to shut up. She was trying to fall asleep, and the baby was trying to fall asleep, and the fireworks were going off, and the dogs were going mental, and you know, waking the baby up and waking her up, and just this whole kind of domino effect thing. And of course, her yelling off the deck woke me up, and just this. Come on. But it's fine. They, like I said, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really faze me much. Although I will say the other day, Monday, I think it was. Monday, somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody was lighting off fireworks at like fucking 2 a.m. And that is a dick move. I don't care who you are. That is not a nice thing to do. Like if you're launching them off 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, okay. Like, I get it. But 2 o'clock in the morning, that just seems a little extreme, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, we live in Rhode Island, so fireworks are perfectly fine and legal here. They sell them in Walmart, you know, so. Not like I'm surprised people are setting them off. And like I said, I don't even, like, most of the time, I don't care. If it's like normal, what I would consider to be the normal window of firework setting off, which is anywhere between like 8 o'clock, 8:30 when the sun starts to go down, and like, let's say 10:30 at the latest. Once you get past 10:30, like, once it starts to hit like 11, you're just kind of entering the territory of douchebaggery at that point when you're setting them off. People got work, you know? Even during a pandemic. Alright. Oh, jeez. I am real bad at keeping these guys in the shot. I need to get a little bit better at that. By a little bit better, I mean a lot of it better. I need to... I think a lot of it, too, happens to be camera placement, because where it's comfortable for me to hold the Mini and paint it, it does not line up with the limitations and constraints of where I can put this camera. So, I'll need to find some solution to that problem at some point. Until then, just kick myself repeatedly throughout the night for wandering. Alright. And then we'll just do his helmet, and then this guy is blacked out and done. Realistically, this process does not take forever. Especially if you're working on like a single figure. It's not a big deal. However, when you're working on an entire unit at once, like I am/was last week, the sort of multiplies the time it takes by a factor. That might seem like sort of a common sense statement. Hey, Mandy, how's it going? Nephew's birthday. Well, happy birthday to the nephew. Yeah, just working on some skeletons from last week, trying to get them at least on the same page. And then I took a slight palette cleanser move, and I had another project that I started because realistically I've been working on my undead army now for quite some time. And even on the stream here, this is episode 13, and most of those 13 episodes have been dealing with me painting my undead army. So, I have this little guy right here, which is a Skaven Plague Monk. since you play D&D and Pathfinder and stuff, you would probably be familiar with the concept of a were-rat. That's the closest you can come to Skaven. They're like mutated rat men that most people deny exist, but they live under the cities and they swarm up and wreck your day. But yeah, this guy in particular, I have a whole bunch of these guys that need to be painted at some point, and I was kind of working out the paint scheme that I wanted to use, and so this is just sort of like base coats after a little bit. Ooh, awesome! Gotta love. I'm not a marshmallow fan, like, in the slightest. So, s'mores were never a snack food I enjoyed. But that being said, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. So I'm glad you got to snack on something you enjoy. In a socially distant and responsible manner. Alright, so I'm going to call this guy done. We'll grab this one next. Swing back to our big brush here. Just knock out these larger surfaces with a larger brush. I feel like it only makes sense. Should have put black paint on this palette. Went through a fair bit of it lately. Especially when you start doing these kinds of processes. Processes. We'll go with that. Processes. Anyway. Still think I need to go back to some of my older skeletons and touch them up in a few places. Some of this kind of thing. Like see if they have any gemstones on them that I probably didn't pay much attention to, and I just realized this guy had one on his helmet, and that got me thinking. I don't know if any of the other ones had them. All right. You know, there's something to be said for being that committed to a food item. So I applaud that. You know what I think I just realized? The new coffee that my wife bought. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same brand and flavor of coffee that I drink at work. I don't know how I feel about that. It reminds me of being at work. Obviously, there was no way she could have known that. And frankly, I wasn't expecting that sort of reaction to drinking it either. Like, oh, coffee is coffee. Surely this will be just fine. I mean, it's fine coffee. Nothing to write home about. But it's what I would call adequate. The problem with the coffee at work is that this sort of mediocre coffee is what passes for good coffee at my work, and the other break rooms have just utter swill for coffee. So I specifically target one break room because it has the best coffee in the building. As I said, it is not coffee to write home about, but when the other option is essentially like vaguely coffee flavored water, no. I've tried to get coffee from those machines before, and it comes out like tan water. It's like, no. I'm not putting that in my mouth. I'm sorry. I have standards. Sense memory is fascinating. You're right. You know what? Speaking of funny things, it just occurred to me just now that part of the reason that I started painting my Legions of Nagash stuff when I did my undead army here was so that it would be a palette cleanser from my Nurgle army. It was a different color scheme, different textures, so it was just like, you know, I wanted to paint something a little bit different. I wanted to use some different colors, so I came and started painting a bunch of skeletons, and then got real sick of that, so I decided I needed a palette cleanser and ended up going back to what I sort of started with. So ultimately it's going to be the same like grand color scheme, you know, the same colors used in my Nurgle army as Skaven army here. So, and that's intentional, because this particular brand of Skaven, the Plague Monks, can be used in a Nurgle army. So would like for them to look at least vaguely like they belong. And quite frankly, the Plague Monks, as the name would imply, they're all about plague and disease and contagion and all that stuff, which is Nurgle's calling card. Nurgle is the chaos god of disease and pestilence and all that fun stuff.
If you awaken from this illusion, and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself, not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolute nothing. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far beyond, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself.
Just realized I kind of fell silent there for a little while. Partly concentrating and partly just sort of focused on whatever music is going on. My apologies. I'm sure I'm also pretty tired too, so. I had a weird night last night. I did not sleep well. My sleep was very broken and disjointed, and I kept waking up. At one point, I think I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and just could not fall back asleep. So I think I just stared at my phone for about an hour and a half or so before finally falling asleep again. And what little time I did spend asleep was pretty much just plagued with nightmares. So it was less than an enjoyable evening of sleep. So I'm not super surprised that I'm tired at this point. And this is, believe it or not, and this is shocking to me especially, this is my first coffee of the day. That, ladies and gentlemen, never happens. There is usually a multitude of coffees involved in my day. But had I not had this coffee, this would have been a real short, real ugly stream, as I would have been falling asleep. That guy's just about done. All right. That guy looks like he's done. This last fella here. I feel like I probably should have done this guy earlier on. He's got a lot of stuff going on with this giant death tuba. I feel like getting him out of the way early probably would have been a good call. Would have sped up the whole process from then on. From like a morale standpoint, I wouldn't have had him sort of dangling over my head like a sword of Damocles. painted a few of these little trumpet dudes. I tell you, they are my least favorite. Least favorite in the unit to paint. But gotta be done. I think in the past I've tried to sort of get them out of the way in the beginning of the project for that very same reason. Just don't have it hanging over your head anymore. Alright. Sword. This we'll get with a smaller, finer brush. Yeah, good enough. It is death tuba. I believe that's what I called it, a death tuba. I will, you can see he is... Skeletons not having lips, you would think would be very bad at playing horn instruments. And yet, you can see that this guy carries very prominently death tuba. So, yeah, that's a thing. Technically speaking, he's simply known as a horn blower. So, I like death tuba. Funny to me. Like I call my skeleton cavalry, I call them the bony ponies. Because they're riding skeleton horses. It's once again just funny to me. The actual name for the unit is the Black Knights, the mounted cavalry that I was just talking about. So, of course, being a Monty Python fan, I hear Black Knight. My brain goes to that entire scene from Holy Grail. And so when I guess our mutual friend Jason was over and we were playing this game, we decided to name the leader of the unit Monty. So the unit has since been renamed Monty's Bony Ponies. They do, actually. The Bony Ponies have, I believe they have fought the Light Red Boys. I think, if memory serves, it's been a while, unfortunately, because of this whole nightmare pandemic thing. But, that being said, I believe it was his brother Ben that was piloting them at the time. Because I have played with Ben a few times. In fact, we did a lot of four-way games where it was myself, Jason, Ben, and then my friend Joe, who fairly certain you've never met. But he's a nice guy. Good people. And he, I don't remember what everyone was playing, but I'm pretty sure that somewhere in there I fought the Light Red Boys. I feel like I should tell the story of the Light Red Boys for the uninitiated, just so nobody's unsure as to what we're talking about. It's a good story. In short, my good friend Jason decided to start an orc army of Iron Jaws. Now, Iron Jaws are known for many things, being fierce melee combatants and brutal in combat. One thing they are not known for is a keen wit and intellect, which I guess is technically two things. But we won't talk about that. So anyway, the backstory for his army in particular is that they came from a snowy region in, I believe it was supposed to be Gur, the realm of beasts. They would hunt creatures all the time and fight, and so they were surrounded by blood all the time. And their leader, being the cunning fellow that he was, decided that they would paint their armor camouflage to match the battlegrounds on which they fought. Since they came from a snowy area, white was a clear color. Shoe-in. And then with all the fighting they did, they decided that blood red should be the other color. As I'm sure you can imagine, as I said, orcs are not terribly intelligent, so they just took a bunch of white paint and splattered red paint on top of the white paint, and then proceeded to mix it all together and paint their armor. I assume they thought that the red dots would transfer from the paint to the armor. Well, it did not. So they ended up with bright pink armor. But as far as the orcs were concerned, it was not, in fact, pink. It was light red. And they would kill anybody that said differently. That was how the Light Red Boys were born. So they are fierce fighting orcs in bright pink armor. And boy, oh boy, are they a sight to behold. And they are super fun to fight against. That is a fun story. I actually, I'm working on this commission for that army, for him, for Jason. This is the body here, and then the wings are kind of like so. And this is the Maw Crusher, and the big orc that rides it is still sitting in the garage waiting to be primed. I wanted to get the big beast done and out of the way. He's not finished yet, but he is actually, he's pretty darn close. So, depending on, I have a sneaking suspicion I'm not going to have a ton of time. I think we have some company coming over tomorrow, if memory serves. So I will likely not have much in the way of time to work on it tomorrow. Maybe Sunday I'll get some time to work on it. Maybe. I don't know what else is going on. Sunday might actually... My wife returns to work next week. Her work schedule Happens to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I don't know if she's starting on Sunday or Monday. Like what her technical first day is. This guy has a lot of fabric. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Every time I think I got it all, I find more. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this guy is my least favorite in the unit to paint. Just so much crap. Normally I'm not against painting detail, don't get me wrong. But sometimes there's such thing as like detail that you just don't need. It's just kind of there for the sake of being there. This guy is crawling with it. Part of it is because I did not build these models. I bought them on eBay, and they came pre-built. So I didn't have a say in the parts that were used. And I usually, as I mentioned in last week's stream, I will usually try and keep things like shields off until I've finished painting the model. Things like that, just to give me access to as much of the model as possible and not get in my way. As well as things like this guy's death tuba. But you can mix and match these guys to a certain degree. Like all of their torsos fit on all of the legs, and all of the arms fit on all of the torsos. So you can kind of customize these guys to a fair degree. Now that being said, I had and still have a tendency when I build these guys to make them as simple as possible, because I know I'm going to be painting a ton of them, and I don't want more work than need be. So I will give them just as much bone as possible, because that paints quickly. And then everything else in limited quantities. I put like armor on the unit champion, maybe on the musician and the banner guy, because they're the command of the unit. They're the most important. Or at least they used to be. Now they provide some small buffs, but ultimately don't really do much. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call that done. Except for the apparently few spots I missed on his death tuba. I don't think I'm ever going to get sick of calling it a death tuba. I think tonight is the first time I ever called it that, and I think it's stuck. All right. We got those guys done up to the point of the rest of the unit. Where are we for time? is 10:22. We're chewing through this stream pretty quickly tonight. Or so it seems. I mean, it's still a 2-hour stream, so 2 hours is 2 hours is 2 hours. However. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and pop a lid back on here. The wet palette for now. Say too soon. Oh, dumb. All right. I go to put it away, and of course find that there are some spots that need to be touched up with this base color. Silly me. Thinking it would be easy. Psh. All right. My game plan is I'm going to get this. What is it with this one spot on this guy that it just does not want to take paint? These don't often have like mold release agent or anything like that on them. They're usually pretty clean when you get them. It's like the inside of his knee just does not want to take paint. It's irksome and vexing all at the same time. Should get my wash that I'll use. Hairdryer wasn't so loud. Probably run to the other room to pick one up right now, just to speed this along. Second guessing this wash. We're just going to go for it. I trust my gut. Yep, don't hate it. Got a little bit too much collecting. Some spots, so we're just gonna zap that out of there. wait for that to dry before we can dry brush over it. Take a little bit of time. While it does that, wash away. Grab this guy. Palette again. Yeah, where I think I hit my biggest block with this mission for Jason is trying to figure out how best to highlight the armor and the armor panels on the actual beast itself. And the color I chose was like a dark cranberry color. And I think what I'm going to have to do is like mix up some of that cranberry and, you know, whatever kind of highlight color I want to use. So like I used a lot of warm colors. So I'll probably take like something like this, like a really light off-white kind of warm beigey color. And that will end up, I'll mix that with the super dark cranberry. Hopefully avoid getting like a pink in the process, because I don't want this guy to be like, even though technically he's a part of the Light Red Boys, I'm choosing a different color than the pink that he has, because it's a special character. So for whatever reason, I decided I was going to do him in an interesting sort of standalone manner. And actually, this Mandy, I don't think I've shared this with you yet. The story behind this monster and this character, particularly for Jason's army, for the Light Red Boys. So basically, it's gonna go down something like this. I have a like a little story game, a little narrative game in mind for how it's all gonna go down. So he has a what they call the mega boss, which is like, you know, their general or something like that, right? And he has the on foot version as opposed to the one mounted on the Maw Crusher here. So my plan is to play the game on how his mega boss earns his Maw Crusher, right? Like, he goes out and finds one and tames it or something like that, right? But the game is going to be played. My hard deadline for getting this thing done is around November. And the idea is that I'm going to be playing a Thanksgiving game with Jason. And this thing is going to be the turkey. And essentially, it's going to go down like this. His Light Red Boys will be fighting their way across the countryside and encounter a group of Chaos Warriors known as the Gore Pilgrims. And the Gore Pilgrims will have found this large brown and red and orange Maw Crusher, and they will have it chained down in the middle of the map, and they're about to sacrifice it to their dark god. And the orcs come in and they fight the Chaos guys and kill them, and free the Maw Crusher. And so the Maw Crusher decides that they are now friends and allows this Mega Boss to ride him. So everything is being done like in Thanksgiving colors as a result. So he was done in browns, the Maw Crusher, intentionally to hearken to a turkey. The wings, if you look at the colors on the wings, it goes from like a reddish brown into like a cranberry into like an this is actually called pumpkin orange, the top here. And then the armor plates were, I chose this color because it reminded me of cranberry sauce. And then the bone is kind of reminiscent to me of mashed potatoes. And that's how I picked the color scheme for this guy. Was I thought of Thanksgiving dinner and said, well, how can I translate that to something stupid? That's the story. It's a good one. So yeah, he's gonna have a Thanksgiving Maw Crusher. I will be painting, so the orc's skin is going to be like traditional orky green, but his armor will be a combination of the cranberry and the sort of like creamy potato color. So he will be done in a similar scheme. Yes. I am apparently a lunatic. But it is a game, and it's designed to have fun. And, well, if you don't think that's fun, although I suppose everyone is entitled to their own definition of the word fun. Provided it doesn't involve hurting somebody. All I can hear is my daughter's tiny feet pounding around upstairs. And I find myself wondering, why is she still awake? And I realize that there's fireworks going off everywhere, so that's probably playing a role in why she's still awake. I understand that it can be difficult to sleep when there are fireworks launching off. Somehow I managed to still fall asleep, because I could sleep through anything. World War III could be going on in my backyard, and I'd be like, nap sounds amazing. Man, I did a really piss poor job blacking this guy out. And I did like a couple of little bits. It's from last week though, so. Yeah, we've had fireworks. We've had fireworks going on for weeks now. It's something. It doesn't bother me quite as much as it does some of the others in the house. I don't necessarily blame them, but as I said, I have the good fortune of being able to sleep through pretty much anything. I think it's good fortune. I don't know. The jury's still out on that. I could certainly see it having its downfalls. Like, for instance, the unlikely and unfortunate event in which there is a home invasion. If I'm fast asleep, I'm not really going to do much good, am I? These are the weird things I think about. All right. Purple. I suppose I should make clear the fact that I am not overly concerned about random home invasions. But there are things that happen. do like to be at least vaguely prepared. I don't, for instance, think that there is one any more eminent now than there was like 6 months ago. I realize that we live in uncertain and difficult times, but I think we'll do all right in the long run. All right, well, I think I have done about as much as I'm going to do tonight on the stream. We still have, it's cooling up a bit more than I would like. Still have some wash drying on this test model here. So soak some of that up. Cover up the egregious mistakes there with the next layer of paint when that goes on. But anyway, so we got this rat to about this point here. Nothing to write home about, but I like where the scheme is going, and I definitely prefer this to the straight green all over. I think this is just, it's boring, is what it is. So I like the two-tone nature of what this is bringing to the table. So we're gonna follow up with this across the army. I don't know when necessarily I'm gonna get a chance to keep working on it, but it's on the agenda. Now that I've got a few of the guys primed and ready to go, should be a little bit easier to kind of chip away at. So anyway, move that out of the way. And then we got our skeletons. We got the last of those things blacked out. We started throwing some purple on. I picked out the banner in purple and the banner guy's shield in purple, and a lot of the guys are going to have purple cloth here and there. It's purple and black cloth. Those that have the appropriate type of shield for it will have purple on their shields, and then we'll get any sort of like ribbons and banners and stuff like that. It's all gonna be purple too. And then it's metallics, and that's it. Those guys will be done in short order. So that's a plus. We'll probably I always like to say I'll get them done before the next stream, and then I spend the next stream working on them for a couple hours. So yeah, well, when you are father of a 2-year-old, time is not something you have a ton of. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight, I think, guys. I don't think I've got anything else planned for sure, and I think we're in the process of everything's just kind of drying, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of wrap this up. So I want to thank everyone for watching. As always, I appreciate it greatly. Come and spending some time with me and hanging out for a couple hours. Always nice. I also want to just direct everybody to follow me on social media. I've got Instagram and Twitter, both at Wes Odinson, WESODINSON. And Wes Odinson is also the name of the YouTube channel. So it's just youtube.com. Do a search for Wes Odinson and it'll pop right up. And just go ahead and give a subscribe over there. This video, once this is done, I will download and then upload to YouTube. So if you enjoyed it or feel like rewatching it for any particular reason, then you know where to find it. I think that's it, guys. I don't really think I have anything else to add today. Feel a little bit off my game, I'm not gonna lie. Real tired. So all right, we're gonna go ahead and pull the plug on this. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a pleasure. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. We'll be back again next week as we always are. Actually, no, I think I take that back. I think my wife and I have a trip planned next weekend. So I will probably be doing a stream ahead of schedule, probably like Wednesday or Thursday night. So look for that. Excuse me. And then that, once that is done, it will be scheduled for YouTube upload at the normal time. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that next Friday, my wife and I are probably, like, this time we'll already be down in the Cape. We found a little place to rent for a couple of days. So anyway, that's it. So yeah, so next Friday there will not be a stream, but there will be one like a day or two ahead of schedule in preparation because I will be going away for the weekend. And that's it. All right, guys. Again, thanks. Take care. Take care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.